And we're live, Albert.
All right.
It's happening.
Ugh.
It's actually happening.
hmm
What's happening, Albert?
So we had the idea on Tuesday to do a world building stream. So, both me and you, we do a few different settings for D&D and other RPGs.
Too
So
many, some would say.
yeah, so we're kind of taking this time to dedicate to working on them and fleshing them out, and kind of sharing that process with other people. So I have some things that I'm going to be working on, a lot of which I've kind of worked on before already, but just kind of gonna do this as an example. And I believe you also have something prepared, right?
Yeah, I do have a lot prepared, but I'm a weird person when it comes to world building because I like to use traditional mediums whenever I'm brainstorming. So like
hmm
I have all mine written in binders and everything. But sometimes I'll get the inspiration. Inspiration will strike, and then I'll be like, I need to get it all down on the computer. And there have been a few instances recently where that happened to me, but in general, all my stuff is in different mediums. And throughout the course of this Twitch stream, I think I'll get a lot more of my stuff written down. So I'm really looking
hmm
forward to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome everyone. We did open up OneNote, but I didn't have time to import all my stuff. So
That's
we
fine.
have. I guess we'll start off with Albert's, right?
Yeah. So the
Yeah. So we have Vathan.
yes. So this is a setting that I'm currently running you through with a few of our other friends, and it's a bring up the map here.
Yeah, here, let me hop over to your screen, all right?
Yeah. So, kind of the basics of the world
Okay,
itself is that.
hold on one moment.
Oh, sure.
All right, you're up.
Okay, so the basics of the world itself is that it's a world that is mostly covered in ice and pretty large mountain ranges. So it's cold, snowy, and the cities tend to be quite isolated from one another. It's still kind of relatively urban, and you also have a lot of it's. I would describe it as high magic. It's quite similar. The cities themselves are quite similar to Eberron.
Yeah, and it has that
Yeah.
really like high magic, high technology, high techno magic type feel to it.
Yeah.
Because in the campaign that you're talking about, I have a character named Hyzen, and he's
hmm
like a militiaman, so he has like a bolt action rifle, but with a bayonet attached to it. So
hmm
and in general, I think that the world itself is pretty amazing because one of the things that I've always run into with world building is the scope of your world gets out of hand super fast.
hmm
But with your concept of having an ice age hit recently, really constrains the world to these two continents
Yeah.
just because of the glacial push.
hmm
Yeah.
And the other thing that I quite like about it is that you have this nice contrast between these urban cities and the rural frontier
Mhm.
as people kind of push outward. Because I kind of touched this briefly in the campaign, but the ice sheets are actually receding. It's starting to slowly get warmer, and so that's allowed people to push out into the frontier.
Mhm.
So while you kind of have a relatively rural campaign and kind of isolated from many of the factions that are centered in the cities, I do still want to build that out, and I have other players sort of experiencing that side of the world, and so
Mhm.
it's gonna be what we work on right now.
Yes.
Uh,
So how many campaigns are you running in this setting right now?
two,
All right.
yeah.
And so one setting is set on the western continent, right?
They're both on the Western continent. I
Oh,
have
you
you guys sort of just got here,
down by
and
what's that Darkall
uh,
sheet?
the the Droskell sheet,
Droskell
and
sheet?
the other campaign is here basically this Tri-City region.
Hmm. Oh, those outlines are cities.
Yep.
Oh, I thought those were just like ice,
Or
like
no, they're lakes.
Oh, okay.
The
I
city,
was
yeah, but
I was
the
confused
cities
for a
kind of
second.
surround it. Yeah, no, they're not that big.
All right, then I was about to say Jesus, it's so large.
Hmm.
And I see you got a nice air balloon over on the
Yeah,
eastern
I
side.
drew this. I drew this map, so some of the decorations aren't great.
Yeah. A
I
lot of
like the
my stuff is
snake.
all traditional medium, and I think I showed you this once, but for my primary setting,
Oh
Alvakra, like the
lord.
big one, I pasted together like it's sheets of paper, like sketching paper, and I
Yep.
taped them together, and I came out to like 6 by 5 sheets, and I taped them together, and that's how big the map was. And it was like I got halfway through doing it, and it was all detailed in, and I was just like, this is too much. But then I ended up having to drop the campaign because it's just DMing's hard, mainly because of the fact that within our social group, everyone wants to be a DM, and everyone end
Yeah,
up
we all
and when
have
they're
our own things.
and when everyone's a player, they kind of lose motivation. And
Yeah.
personally, I just love D&D so much that whenever I'm a player, I'm always like, "What's next? What are we doing? What's this world
Hmm.
setting like?" And I feel that that passion is something that I can bring to bear as a player more so than I can as a DM, because
Yeah, I get
DM
that.
burnout is super serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm gonna probably work on some factions. So I have
Awesome.
two that I would like to work on right now. The first one is the Agents of Solvent, which I kinda am uh, pulling from other campaigns because it's just really good.
If I
But
recall correctly, Dawn and Dusk were getting super like upset at you because you just keep planting this into their worlds.
I
Like,
only did it to Gavin.
did you? I thought
With
you did it.
Dusk.
I thought you
Yeah,
did it to
no, it was
Dawn.
only Dusk. No, I haven't done it to Dawn's.
Oh man. Okay, yeah, cause I know Dusk was always like he you did that to him twice now, right? Like,
Nothing. It's only been once.
no, I thought you did it with the campaign. When was it? The one that fell through. Yeah, I used to
The
do it
most
on
recent one.
Thursday last
Oh
semester, and then you did it again when I was playing when we did the Sword Coast one.
no, that was different.
Was yeah, okay then.
It was different.
All right
Yeah.
then. So this Agents of Solvent, I still don't even know much about it. So give us a kind of a general overview. And
Yeah. So I guess in our world, the history behind it is that in Dusk's campaign, it was set in a city, basically a frontier city, in like basically a new plane that they had discovered a portal to, and the portal connecting the new plane to the old one got broken, and so there was this huge power vacuum. And so my character decided to make a Robin Hood style crime organization to help people. So I ended up creating this chaotic good aligned faction within that city, and I liked it a lot. So kind of taken I'm I've taken it and I'm going to apply it liberally to other worlds that I make.
yeah,
Uh
it kind of sounds similar to the Harpers. What makes the
yeah.
Agents of Solvent different?
Uh the Harpers are, from my understanding of the Harpers, is that they really value subtlety,
Hmm. And the
whereas the
agency,
Agents of Solvent kind of don't.
they're
Uh,
like, are they just so? Whereas the Harpers would be like true neutral or neutral
mm,
good, right? Like,
yeah,
so would you say the Agents of Solvent would be more of a
they're more chaotic good.
chaotic good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so like, but one problem that I've kind of run into is that they don't really have a history in Vathan. I just kind of transplanted them in, and so that's something I've kind of would like to work on.
Yeah, all right then. Well, before we go too far into the factions, I think this episode we should spend a little bit more time going more into depth about the other background stuff.
Hmm.
Like, because this is supposed to be a series, right? So, So far, what I understand of Vathan is what we've done on the stream is Ice Age world,
Yes.
technomancy type thing. Like
Hmm.
technology's pretty high,
Yep.
and you're running 2 campaigns on it.
Yes.
All right. I see you got a deity section over there.
Yeah. So uh this is the pantheon that I borrowed from an old campaign, Dark Hearth.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
I
So
think.
this is
Wait,
this.
don't you still have a couple episodes of those up on
Yeah. It's
SoundCloud?
still on SoundCloud
Nice.
if you want to find it.
Yeah, you just go down that rabbit hole of Google Dark Hearth.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
It'd be a lot easier if you searched it
SoundCloud.
on SoundCloud.
Yeah,
It's not bad. I think our current campaign that we're recording is much better.
yeah, way much better.
Uh,
Which is Vessel,
so.
my world. We'll get to that one in the later in the same program. So
Hmm.
yeah. All right.
So
So
I actually have a pretty good amount of detail on like the way the Pantheon works. Uh, but I think one thing I would like to work on in this stream on the later episode is how they influence the world itself.
nice.
Just to kind of go into brief detail, the astral shackles basically make up the like a compass stars, so they direct south. Uh, so at the so the I guess I can draw it. Is probably the best way to describe it. Probably not like this. So the four stars of a diamond form the first stars of each of these constellations. So the pantheon is rooted pretty deeply in astrology, and so each of those four constellations are bound by the astral shackles, and they represent the four main evil gods of the world. The vigils are directly around them, and they are the six main good gods of the world, and they watch over the four evil gods. And the astrologica is the rest, and so they are your zodiac constellations, basically. And so they uh, appear in the sky during certain seasons, and that's how the seasons are organized in this world. And okay. And so the astrologica basically represent not the neutral gods, the minor gods. Uh, and so you have good ones, you have neutral ones, and you have evil ones, and you get a mix of everything. It's sort of vaguely organized so that there's one good, one evil, and one neutral in each season. And the vagrant gods are your planets. The They are kind of outside of the conflict between the other gods. And whereas the Astrologica are minor gods, the Vagrant gods are yet further minor gods, basically.
All right. So that seems like a lot of in-depth building that you've done. I really wish that I went that far into a lot of my worlds because for me, I've always dismissed deities.
Hmm.
I know for RPGs, it's a huge concept of the world, right?
Hmm.
You need deities and you need to have this whole concept built. But for me, I've always dismissed it of like no one knows what the gods actually are, and
Yeah.
that we interpret them as gods and we need to attach titles, but they don't really care about that, not as much as we do.
The in Dark Hearth, the I actually had a pretty in-depth creation story around all of them, but that's kind of estranged
Oh,
now that it's in this new world, and that's something I think I would like to work on again later.
yeah, probably bring it up. The thing is though is that like I think the only in our current campaign, it's called Frozen Frontiers because we're in that campaign we're expeditioning out into the glacier trying to uh
Hmm.
resettle a like village. So in that one we only have one character as played by Dawn who
Yes.
who's divinely related. So, and I don't know if it would be spoilers to reveal this, but because I'm pretty sure Dom's gonna watch this later. But is that one you're highlighting?
Yeah,
Really?
that's that one. Yep.
Okay, yeah. All
I
right
mean,
then. She
yeah, I
knows.
told her. Yeah,
Oh,
she
okay.
knows.
Yeah.
She knows. Her character doesn't. I need to figure out how to do that still.
Oh man, it was pretty dope. And that one, I think a lot of our role playing style is definitely a lot more like situational based, and we've been doing pretty good. Like Dawn role
Hmm.
playing the fact that her character is like experiencing everything new.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the campaign. Well, I mean, we're not playing this week because we're here. Yeah, it's fine.
No, I think
So,
we are playing this week because
are we?
yeah.
When are they getting back?
Dawn said that she's gonna be back either sometime late tonight or sometime tomorrow.
I guess we could play tomorrow.
I'm not entirely sure when Dusk is gonna be back though.
Yeah, we'll see. Uh, so yeah, so back to factions, I suppose, unless there's something else you want to go over.
Um. Oh, for me, where you put a lot of effort into talking about deities, I think that a lot of my effort is put into countries and civilizations
Hmm.
like that. How would you describe your civilizations building in Vathan?
So it's mostly city-states with alliances, but you have a few distinct nations.
Hmm.
Adelvas and Torin kind of make up like a pretty distinct state entity. Torsholan is pretty similar, but most of the other cities are would consider themselves like nation states.
Hmm.
I think you have this sort of network of cities here along this river that are also their own state, but most of the other ones I would say are pretty isolated from one another. Mostly Torvis, Ordelmont, uh, Rosethorn, Vendel, and Asher. I don't have a whole lot of details on these cities,
Yeah, I
which
mean,
is I think we can get into that
at
at
a
a
later
later
date.
date as
Yeah,
well.
nice.
And additionally, I think as we get into this, I would like to start uh, a world from scratch, but we'll get
Oh
into that
man,
later.
that would be nice.
Yeah, I think it'll be really fun
Actually,
if we do
the
that.
closest thing that I think that we can get from scratch is Iris because I literally
We
started
could.
that one like two
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Hmm.
There's nothing on that page, but we can work on that.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what you sort of have planned for today?
Yes. Hold on. Let me do the switcheroo on my part. Let me just
How does this look anyway? Just
yeah. So I'm actually not gonna be using the R's because I haven't been able to port it over yet. But I'll give you a quick rundown on my thing, and then
hmm.
I'll port it over a bit later. All right. So we're back on my screen. So this is my OneNote for Vessel, and it's a lot to go through, just because I'm more of a writer. Albert's really good at like getting things down in a note wise. For me, I had the right train of thought, and so we have so this is Vessel, and in general, Vessel is a in a sort of like pseudo futuristic apocalyptic type setting where technology is equivalent if not more advanced than ours in various aspects. It has a very like Blade Runner and like futuristic type vibe to it. It has magic and but a really repressed magic in the terms of whether like it's a new type thing, and it and that goes further down into the lore of it, but we'll get to that. And it's unique in that its vessel itself is one city. That's just what they call it, and um, the city itself is massive. This is actually an old image. I really wish I had a new one because this is how it was before.
Yeah, it
Back when
got bigger.
yeah, back when we played it initially. When was it like 3 years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
it started 3 years ago, but that's me and Albert did a one-on-one. He was playing a character, I was DMing, and we played it. And I literally was just like, let's just put something together, just real quick. And then it was just me and you hanging out at like two o'clock in the morning, just going back and forth. But
Yeah.
eventually, that inspired me to start writing about it, and I kind of built more. But at the same time, I've intentionally left it broad, for lack of a better word.
Hmm.
Yeah. So this is more about the actual background, but essentially what had happened is that in a time past, these precursors to not necessarily humans, but precursors to humans, they rose up in technology. They mastered their physical bodies and they mastered, the environment around them. But then they started this internal conflict, utilizing various technologies that could be considered dangerous. But that's a real light use of the word dangerous. These things were world ending. And that's what happened. This conflict escalated to the point of it destroying the atmosphere, destroying everything. But there were kernels of civilization that were preserved from before, like arcs, if you will, um, to make sure that everything still lived. And Vessel was one of those, one of the culminations of those endeavors. So prehumans, or not really prehumans, but humans, once they found this artifact called the Vessel of Light, and that's the reason why they call it a vessel. They this I'm explaining this all wrong. So in addition to the seeds that preserved the biological beings, a lot of these precursors they also decided to upload their consciousness into like a like an AI type thing. And initially it was like, oh yeah, we'll just all become cyber beings. That's cool. But that sounds alright. But once you combine your consciousness with millions of other people, over the course of a couple million years, your consciousness stopped being your own. So eventually they all kind of coalesced into this one being type consciousness, and they became something else. And when the humans came around and the other races, elves, orcs, and that sort of things came around, they they brought it upon themselves to protect them and guide them. And they essentially brought the civilization from the Stone Age all the way up to modern times within the course of about 700 years. So that's kind of how Vessel came about. And this dichotomy between the actual the actual AI and humans and just the way we are, I kind of felt that that was a really cool moment to start approaching concepts such as religion and society changes and all that sort of stuff. And that's where a lot of the tenets of this world come from.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
and one of the things I wanted to throw in there is just because of the sci-fi thing is corporations. And there's a lore aspect to that as well. But it's in general it's a pretty in-depth world that I think that I enjoy running. But the main part is that like I've worked on it but haven't really written it down. So there's a lot of parts that I'm like, oh, it's like this, but I don't know where I wrote it down.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I have these. I was working on this a while ago, but there are like timestamps for various other things. But
Hmm.
the only other superior power deity type thing would be these the vessel itself, as well as I do make a reference to one of my reasoning behind this. So in the worlds of high fantasy, the concept of tangible gods are often commonplace. These gods live among mortals and inhabit their own domains from time to time, but often find themselves dealing with the matters of mortals often. Such concepts are very common throughout many fantasy settings, from Tolkien to Salvador. In my mind, this concept is strange and almost impossible for our modern minds to attempt to comprehend. Though many questions do come to mind when considering many of the repercussions such a world would mean, such as what sort of religions would arise surrounding these gods, how would an attempt to turn away from the gods look, how would overzealous faith look in these sort of worlds. So, taking that into account, in Vessel,
Mm.
the concepts of the divinity and magic are very much prevalent within the world, much like they are within our own world. Though, unlike ours, these concepts don't have as mythical roots as I think a lot of our other systems have. The
Hmm.
concepts of magic and divine lay in their true history because of the actual existence of magic and the actual existence of the 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 entity that resides within the vessel.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that's one aspect that I take with this world, and it's controversial, yeah, but at the same time, it helps look at problems in a
Yeah.
dynamic way. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with Vessel. I have a couple other things over here that I think are kind of spoilerish, so I'm just gonna close that from you. um,
Alan.
I didn't even write out all of this because I have it all in my notes. I just haven't written it on paper yet.
Oh Lord. Where is it? There we go.
Yeah. But I think today, I think we're mainly going to focus on yours, right? And then we'll hop on over to mine.
Yeah.
All right, let me switch on over to yours and give you the mantle back to you.
Hmm.
Gotta get more proficient at this. All right, we're back on your screen.
Okay, sweet. Uh oh yeah, that was smooth.
Right?
Yeah, so for the agents of solvent specifically, we'll start with what I know, like kind of what's constant with them. So we'll start with the motto, which is something I'm quite proud of. You've heard this before, Alan.
I think I have. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right.
All oceans start from a stream. Oh, that's Prince of Oppression, cleansed by vernal rain from the lake, the storm, from the storm, the lake. The fastest river runs from the tallest mountains. Long live watercolor. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I know that.
And so, yeah, this motto kind of summarizes the core of their beliefs. And so I think we can start from that next.
Yeah, so all oceans start from a stream. The prince of oppression are cleansed by vernal rain. From the lake, the storm, from the storm, the lake. The fastest river runs from the tallest mountains. Long live the watercolor night. The watercolor night? I always thought that was like legit night, not knight.
No,
Like the
yeah,
Nigget.
no, it's a bit of a play on words actually.
Oh man, you gotta start saying Knigget. Long live the watercolor Knigget.
Yeah,
All right. So a lot
and
of
so
water motifs. I take it they're from that Vathan Adel area where all those
yeah,
lakes are.
yeah. That makes sense actually.
Yeah.
So the core beliefs are uh, power is derived directly from the people. Are I think authority is probably a better way. It's derived directly from the people, and those people have the right to deny authority when it does not serve. Hold on.
Sorry about that. I think Albert needed to get up and go take care of something. Hold on.
Yep. It's the best way to put it. Deny authority when it endangers them. I think that's the best way to. And the agents of solvent.
So where did the term agents of solvent come from? Because seeing as how there's a lot of like water motifs, I imagine that the solvent means that they're transparent in society.
The
Did I
water
get it?
motif came from the name. I came up with the name because wait,
Oh,
hold on, is it the other way? Yeah, so I came up with the name, and then I wanted a theme that matched the name, and arrived at water as the
yeah,
universal solvent.
yeah, and also because they're agents of solvent, meaning that I don't know, that's kind of weird. But in general, like the idea I was thinking of is you know how like certain things they become transparent in certain types of solvents.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking was going to be happening.
that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I wanted a motif that made sense with the name, and didn't want to get like too scientific with it because it didn't
Yeah.
really make sense.
Yeah.
That wouldn't really make sense. But so I kind of ended up with the water motif. Fight tyranny in all of its forms. Uh, and protects communities who are otherwise ignored by authority. And yeah, so no single member of the organization is to be given full authority over the entirety over it. no single member of the organization is to be given full authority over it. Instead, all leadership is distributed among individual cells.
Oh, but real quick, I'm gonna interrupt because I'm gonna interrupt real quick and grab my page so that way. Wait. Yeah. Sorry, I had to grab my OneNote because I'm gonna work on it on the side while you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That way I don't interrupt your thing.
Yeah, makes sense. And so that is more or less sort of what's known, and kind of what my goal here is to fill out the rest. So we need well, I have the main tenets of the organization. I would like to today kind of work out context that gives the organization this belief system. So no, let's start with the founders. Need some names, Alan.
Sigris Offenwheel.
Keep going.
Let me think of a couple. All right, so there's Karik. And then I can't think of a good last name. Then there's Dentris.
Interest. Sure. Just go with Star Wars names.
It's a Star Wars name.
Alright, sure. Hmm.
Gonna be a lot of typing in this one, I think.
Yep. So the watercolor knight specifically. We'll start there.
Who is the watercolor knight? Is he kind of like the Gray Fox in this version?
More or less. A mythical figure credited with founding the organization and selecting its founding members. Some believe that he is still alive, watches over punishing those who stray from its core beliefs. Others believe that it is a title designated and secret. by the factions most. Okay, let's start. Let's start going up from there.
Sorry, I'm trying to type out my OneNote real quick, or organize my OneNote.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Dentris with Ven, Vep,
Yes, Ven.
Ven. Okay.
Hmm.
So if this is in that area of Adel and that lake area, one of these
Mm-hmm.
guys should be like some sort of like man of or person of the people, like politician, farmer type person, you know, from ashes to riches type person.
Mm-hmm.
But like they fell from grace or something to inspire them to really push forward the agenda of the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know who that would be, but I feel that that sort of character would be really be a motivating person to bankroll this endeavor, as well
Mm-hmm.
as like become a moral figurehead.
Mm-hmm. Uh. Yeah. Dentris Ven was a public figurehead for the early organization. A farmer elevated to the position then the Council of Lords of Lake Cities elevated to the position within the Council Lords of the Lake Cities, but pushed out after repeated public criticisms and attempts on provided much funding and public propaganda. Sure. Karak-Sen, I think, was a organizer and recruiter. Finding potential members from the most downtrodden and forgotten communities of cities. Is viewed as a father figure for many initiates. Former head of the Adel branch of the organization, credited with the protection of the rock slide from raiders, mountain raiders, uh, and extortion from the city guard. Arvin Shax is the former head of, I guess I should say founding. Head of the Vass branch, credited with the creation of Goblin Town.
Goblin Town. Is that an Adel?
No, it's in a different city. It's in Vass. Credited with the creation of Goblin Town. After the farmer community had been burned to the ground after guard raids. So I think this kind of informs some of the history as well. So the organization was founded by the Watercolor Knights. So after some sort of major calamity, wonder what that would be.
You never went into detail about how this Ice Age came about. Was it recently?
No, it's been like this for a long time.
So it couldn't have been like a magical phenomenon or something?
It could be.
Was it, what about any wars in that region? Is there any major
Yeah.
wars?
Okay.
Or maybe it could be like the change of a monarchy that like did a whole like political reboot, if you would.
Mm-hmm. Uh. Hmm. A farmer court official of monarchy would become a founding member of the Council of Lords. As a response to the former of the monarch's attempt to draft citizens to fight in a bloody conflict. We'll figure that. We'll figure out the enemies later. The organization faced violent crackdown, but would eventually form a major backbone of a rebellion against the monarchy. But would remain unwritten in history. Deliberately unwritten in history. Okay. Afterwards, organization forms a major aspect trade, infrastructure, and security. Shit. Security for poor communities that remained unprotected by the city guards and the new government.
Nice. So essentially, just became like trying to think of the word. Kind of like a you remember the game gosh, what game was it? It was a Tom Clancy one.
Uh,
The
I
Division.
yeah, sort of. Yeah, kind of.
No, it's nothing like that, Alan.
It's actually, if I were to be honest, it's kind of a mix of uh the Thieves Guild from Oblivion, the Harpers from Forgotten Realms, as well as a bit of what Mercer did with the Clasp.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, like those things work for a reason, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're blatantly stealing; they're just things that work,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes sense, like why they would exist.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So ancient on events, repressed events, goals. We'll do that right now.
Yeah. Oh, and the format you're using is something that I came up with, right?
Yeah,
It's
just
a
sort of.
condensed version of that worksheet I gave you.
Yeah. Kind of took out some of the things that took out a few things. I don't have kind of leaving out the headquarters part and the command structure sort of
Yeah.
aspects. We may
Yeah.
work on that a little bit
That's
more.
more of a DM end thing.
Yeah. So goals is definitely to
Protect people.
yeah. So provide protection for communities. Uh watch for and watch for organizations and individuals trying to accumulate uh, too much authority and to remove them from their positions in any way possible. Hold on a second, I got a phone call.
I think that was me. That was if it was just a vibration, then it was me. Note to self: turn off ringer when recording. Awesome. Uh, you back? All right. Okay.
Mm. All right. So what's okay? So major known events. the founding of the council. So not credited. Agents of Solvent had a significant hand in influencing the creation of the Lake City's Democratic Congress. I guess, yeah, it's best.
Democratic Congress?
The
The
council, something like that. The Democratic governing body.
Government.
And as well as the election, many of its members I guess most of these are actually just repressed events.
Well, yeah, because isn't the whole thing about it repressed?
Yeah. I wonder what events would be known. It's kind of an interesting problem when you're dealing with secret organizations like this.
Just how secret are they?
Yeah. Oh, that might not be bad. The agents of Solvent are considered instigators of a violent riot originating in Goblin Town.
So what makes Goblin Town Goblin Town?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure if it's actually inhabited by goblins or if it just looks like it is. Within the city. Bass. I just thought it was kind of, no, yeah, it's inhabited by goblins. Goblins live there. It's cool.
Or is it cool? Why else did they call it Goblin Town?
It's probably not cool. Of a violent riot originating in Goblin Town within the most people consider this to be a bad thing. But many who were there, who were witness to the event, testify that many members died protecting those who were in harm's way from sides. I think for organizations like this, I think it's pretty important to include public opinion.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to add that. Public opinion. Most average citizens. It's no better than organized criminals. Uh, they repeatedly sponsor theft from wealthy members of society. And actively challenge authority in all of its forms, which often leads to violence. Uh, especially those with wealth. Low income. Those that the agents solvent actively serve, protect, see them as the only people who are willing to stand up for them, often regarding them as their true representatives in the government. That's not really in the larger community. The true representatives in the larger community, but others often wish that, and recognize that, that acting outside of the law is the only way to ensure this.
Did I ever leave with you? Never mind. I'll figure it out on my own.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for something in particular that has nothing to do with. Sorry.
Okay.
My brain's going all over the place on this side. So while you're working, I've been working on my templates for organizing my stuff. So that way, when we get to me, I can actually show some stuff. But yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna. All they are criminals. They are acting for a great good. All right. So, current leadership. So this I do actually want to put some effort into because need more names. Mm. Of the adult branch. What's the third city called? Torrent. And yeah, okay. Duction. Salt tenants of solvents. And drink of a harmless but painful.
All right, I'm sorry, I spaced out for a couple seconds. What did you just do? Tenants, right?
Yeah, so I briefly described the induction ceremony and filled out
Wait, they
the
drink poison?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not weird at all.
The whole thing still kind of has like a cult of personality sort of feel. So yeah, that's the sort of thing I'm going for with that. So yeah, that it's a pretty good amount of detail. So
That is an extraordinary amount of detail.
so you know, I would like to do this sort of a very similar thing with different organization that I do not really have a whole lot of background information on. And so that is the Eidolon. So gonna specify so lawful evil, secret, conspiracy. So the Eidolon are a secret organization, powerful and wealthy wizards.
What? Hold on, you totally skipped over. Like you didn't even introduce this thing.
What?
The new faction you're working on. You started working on them all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I'm just
So
shocked.
so I'm going the Eidolon.
The Eidolon.
So yeah, so the Eidolon are a secret and powerful, or a secret organization of powerful and wealthy wizards who seek to undermine and replace the Council becoming the new and sole authority of the lake cities of Adel, Torrent, and Vass. So that's about all I know for this organization. And so similar to what we did for the Ancients of Solvent, we'll do the same thing for the Eidolon.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Alright then.
So the history is pretty recent. So the Eidolon has been founded very recently. So what are their core beliefs? Well, to control magical artifacts and power uh, is the only way to ensure stability of position and wealth. Uh, Only way to monopolize on magic power is
Uh-huh.
to do so from a position of authority. So that motivates why they are trying to take control of the government. So founders.
Ooh, come with some cool wizard names.
Yeah.
Let's come up with a few names. Let's go with Comric.
Lake. Also.
Need a couple more names. Let's see. Everyone in chat, we need some cool wizards names.
Oh, hey, we've got 4 viewers.
I know, that's why I said everyone in chat.
Yeah. Welcome
Oh.
to chat, guys.
Yeah.
You're in there. Feel free to let us know. We
yeah.
need some names.
Since you guys are streaming in, this is a world building stream. We're essentially literally just working on our settings. And
Yep.
right now, Albert is working on a couple of factions, and we already went through one, and this is the second one. This one's a group of wizards.
Yeah, so just sort of like a quick overview for those who just joined us. Vathan is an ice world, and that's a pretty big contrast between frontier life and pretty densely populated cities, with pretty similar to that of Eberron. And so right now I'm working on some factions that inhabit those cities and that players can interact with. So we filled out the Agents of Solvent, who are a chaotic good organized crime syndicate, basically. So we've got some of their history, what people think about them, and their motto.
Yeah.
And now we're working on basically the major villains of that campaign, which is the Eidolon, which is a secret cabal of wizards who are trying to overthrow the government.
Yep. And right now we're trying to think of names. So there's Comric.
Yep.
There's need evil sounding names for wizards. Something like Danzeros or like.
How would you spell that?
I don't know. That's like half.
Sure.
That's like half the shit. That's like half the shit in like all these high fantasy stuff. They have these names you can't even pronounce, and it's like what? Take control of the cities. Lake City House. Wait, what? Lake City's House of Lords, and control all magical weapons and artifacts.
there. Take control. Governments. And bring. And continue to amass magical power. Sure. It's a pretty good goal.
Yeah, one of the things that's always hard to do with world settings is that s- you're gonna eventually draw inspiration from or accidentally steal something. So it's always hard when working with factions to actively not steal something.
Not make real world comparisons.
Yeah. So, but after going through this, I'm like thinking about it. Like this feels like more like I don't know why my brain keeps going to this, but you know how people always say, "Oh, it's in a vault in the Vatican." Like that's kind of what I'm imagining these guys do.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Except they're not really religious.
Nah, they're not.
What about a normal name? Wait, actually, what sort of names are common from the Lake Cities area? Like, do they have really outlandish names or?
Hmm. Not really. I mean, your character's name would be considered pretty normal.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Hygiene
I
is
think
normal.
so. Yeah.
Then there's Namus, and then.
Namus is from a pretty different area, though.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man. I gotta. I'm gonna go get some more coffee. I'll be right back. But
Sure.
make sure to fill the air, Albert.
Yeah. Other names. Well, we can work on Comric a little bit. Guess what kind of wizard is he, eh? That's not bad. Sure. A powerful warlock of the White Enchantress. Which is I actually had one of the old characters in the campaign was Warlock of White Enchantress, so why not? We'll do that. Dendros. Lena. Kieran. Diviner. How do you spell divination? Diviner? Is that how you spell that? Yeah. A diviner.
Polnia?
Polena.
Polina.
Organize. Yeah, a diviner organizes.
White Enchantress! White Enchantress!
Determines.
That's a huge name. That's a huge name drop because I know who that is. Rather,
Yeah.
I think I know who that is.
Determines many of the.
She incinerated one of our previous party members.
Yeah. Determines many of the long-term plans of organization. No. I actually need like a historian figure.
Like a records keeper.
Yeah, kinda. Like a scholar sort of thing. More of a scholar.
Well, something normal sounding.
Yeah?
Merrick?
Sure. Merrick. Normal sounding last name.
Something like Pitfellow or like Goodman?
Sure. It's not bad. Eric Goodman, a historian who studies Ancient civilizations of the world. Ancient civilizations and history of the world. Prehistory. I also need like a head of the organization. I think this is the last thing I really want to get out
Oh
of
man,
this.
this person has to be like the evilest person in the world, and has to have a name befitting of such person.
Roche Van.
Oh man, he should be
No, we're
like
not doing that.
someone who's already in power, right? So like I'm kind of
Ooh.
for some reason I'm imagining like a general type person.
I think he would be a lord.
Why are we assuming it's a he?
Yeah, that's a good point. Hmm. Hmm.
All right, let's start off with one syllable. Albert, give me a syllable.
We've done this before. It never ends well.
Does it never end? Oh yeah, this is how we came up with Lepenis, right?
Exactly.
uh,
Hmm.
it can't be as bad as Matt Mercer's Pervon. Gotta get your Pervon.
I missed that. What the hell?
You missed that?
I think I missed that.
It was in the first campaign. I think it was around the time you didn't you weren't keeping up with it.
Yeah, I think so.
But like they they had they had a character named Pervon, and the whole team was just like, "Oh, you gotta get your Pervon." It's like, yeah, it was hilarious, hilariously bad.
Have you been watching talks? Have you been watching their talks? I haven't been.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, anything interesting going on?
Nothing too in depth. It's just a lot of
Mm,
like back and forth.
sure,
There's
makes
been a couple
sense.
good ones, but most of it's a lot of just like humor jokes. You know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, feels like this. It. So did you decide on a gender for this wizard at the very
Nor
least?
nor ill.
Oh, has to be a hyphen name,
Yeah.
like a
Fen.
Vanessa or like a. She seems like a Tammy. Just feels like a Tammy to me, Albert. Tammy's an evil
Just
sounding name, right?
Tammy. No.
Tammy the Dread Wizard.
Fen. Fen seal. Fen. Fen seal. Uh-huh.
Remember, Albert, people can be able to.
Your
They're gonna look for ways to
Fen
make fun of his
seal.
name. Pressure's on.
Yeah. Uh. Gish. Sure. Sure. High-ranking member of the Council of Lords. The head of the organization. What kind of wizard is she? Are we going like full lich here, or?
I don't know. I said Dread Wizard as a joke, but that sounds pretty cool. Like whenever I hear just thinking of Dread Wizard, it kind of makes it sound like they deal with like fear spells and like
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Like we could go full lich here.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I personally didn't really understand the concept of liches. Like, yeah, you want to extend your life, but
What, you don't like the character idea I had before of a lich who became a lich because he just dying sounded boring?
hmm.
He sits in his house with eternal life and just plays video games.
No, but I
I'd
did
like
hear
to.
your one about the convenience warlock.
The convenience warlock.
Yeah.
That one's good.
Yeah. Essentially, you make a warlock pack to just get things like mage hand and prestidigitation.
Yeah. The only thing you have to do is you have to like burn 10% of your income. It's just effectively an extra tax you have to pay each year. Hmm. I kind of don't want to go lich.
That's what I've been saying. Dread wizard, man.
Mm,
Fear wizard.
mm, where's my monster
Destroying wizard.
manual? Let's take a look at a monster manual here. Oh, I haven't opened my monster manual in like months, man.
I know, right? It's been a while since we actually played a game where we needed to like fight things.
Mm. Yeah. Sort of thumb through a monster manual here. Oh man, my monster manual is in such bad shape. Oh god, I
I
need to
mean, we've had
replace
these
so
books
much.
for forever, right?
Yeah, yeah, we have. I just remembered there's a reason I don't use my monster more. What if she's a beholder? Using disguised person. Or a dragon.
What if
Ooh,
she's
that
a
actually
dragon
might
and
not be.
not disguised?
Nah. Could do a dragon. Could be like a secret weakness. Actually, I think the monster manual has good. The dungeon DMs. No, I don't like those tables. Xanathars doesn't actually have a whole lot of tools for like villains.
Yeah.
It's mostly player stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Although I imagine
Um,
Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes will have something along those lines.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that book.
Me too.
It's like what, May, right?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Could do Lich.
What'd you call me?
We could do like a Rakshasha too, but that's not like really end game. It's not end game villain territory really.
Hmm.
Hmm. Could just
Ooh.
be.
You could have them be like a devil of some sort.
Yeah, that might not be bad. Makes sense with the alignment too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or like you know what? Recently they've been on doing a lot of stuff that has to do with what's it called? The Gith?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I don't think it's super appropriate for the world though.
Oh, okay then.
Oh man, did I tell you about the campaign idea I had a while ago?
No.
Of So you know the Mojins, right? They have that great Mojin march.
Yeah.
So you're in a so the reason it happens is that every like period of time in a galactic sense, I think it's like for the world it's like every like 1,000 years or something like that. There can only be so many planes in the multiverse. So the Mojins go around and nominate one to destroy so that they can make a new one. And the players find out that their world is up for nomination. So the campaign is centered around them following the Mojins around, trying to find a worse place. I like it. Unfortunately, the demons don't really have like shapeshift. The devils, I mean.
Yeah, they
I
do.
guess do they?
Yeah, a lot of them are natural spellcasters. I think forget which one it was. It was the one with the snake lady.
The snake. What?
I'm gonna get
Spell?
up my monster manual now. Welcome to the world building stream where we just flip through the monster manual.
Are you sure you aren't thinking of the?
Or maybe a Cambion?
Yeah. Hold on. Could be a Yugoloth. I'm sure you aren't thinking about the Yuan-Ti?
No, I know
That
what Yuan-Tis look like.
yeah, okay.
There's a snake looking devil and don't know where it was. It might be in Volos? No, can't be.
I don't think I actually ever got that book.
You never got Volos?
No, you kind of got to the point where I just let Dawn and Dusk buy all the books. Mostly Dusk, actually.
Yeah.
Don't tell him I said that.
You just wait for him to get it so you can swoop in and
Yeah, I might be a bad person. Ugh. Not seen a snake.
I guess I am thinking about that. Well,
But yeah, the devils don't have shape change. Or,
I mean
no.
it's not out of the realm of possibility to give him
Just
shape
give one
change.
of them
Yeah.
shape change. Oh, you're thinking about the Merilith. The Merilith is a demon,
Oh, yeah, okay, never mind.
and also doesn't have shape change. Hmm.
You know what might be nice? Is if you made like a secret society member of them and have them be a weaver.
Beaver.
Yeah, you don't know about the weavers? I think it's in the monster manual. Should be.
I don't think it's in the monster manual. I know what they are vaguely. Hmm. Yeah, no, the Weavers aren't in here.
I know for a fact it was in the 4th edition monster manual.
No, it's. I don't think it is.
Oh, 4th edition, not this one.
Oh, it's a fourth edition. Yeah, I could borrow something. I don't mind. Yeah, you know what? Let's look it up. New window. Weaver. Uh,
Don't type in P.
Myth Weavers. Uh, monster.
I
Spell
forgot
no.
I forgot the fire newts were a thing. They look so cute.
40 Weaver. No.
Yeah, Yeah, but
Do you know what they were
essentially,
called other than Weaver?
look up monster manual.
The Spell Weaver, but
Try that.
don't think. Nah.
Yep, a load of
Ugh.
them.
Really?
Yeah,
These things
they're
are fucking weird.
yeah, they have. Although those are, that's a weird drawing of it. But essentially, they're like they come from the astral plane, and they're sort of like magical. They're like essentially fourth dimensional beings that actually mend magic.
Hmm. You know, this might not. This is like an AD&D. Oh man, this is a deep AD&D second edition pull.
Yeah, but they made an appearance in fourth edition. That's how I know about it, because that's fourth edition is where I really dip my toe into D&D,
Mm-hmm.
despite what everyone says about it. What the fuck? Vegapygmies is in Volo. What?
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that. Cause like it came up recently in Dice Camera Action, and that's why I was like, wait, what? The Vegapygmies are hilarious.
Hmm.
Yep,
Hmm.
can't see anything, so I guess we'll just What do you think of it so far?
It's interesting. It's more of a neutral character, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to operate within
Yeah.
our forms of evil.
Immorality, yeah.
Yeah, so even though it's neutral, it could see them as a means to an end.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. It's an idea. It is an interesting idea. I think we will get back to that
Mm-hmm.
at a later date. Was there anything else you wanna? Oh, known events and repressed events. They've not really been around long enough to really have those.
I imagine that there was something like an assassination or like something that they did in order to get more power.
Hmm.
And I think that would fall underneath the repressed events category.
Mm-hmm.
Something like hired a changeling or something.
Hmm. Pressed. Uh, no. I think I'll think about it. Think about it maybe for next time.
Alright then. We're coming up on the 2 hour mark.
Yep. So I think we're gonna use the bathroom. We can go on a quick break here. When we come back, bring it over to yours.
Yeah, okay. So, for this next half of this stream, we'll be focusing on my world, Vessel, which is what we were just previewing. Welcome back. My name's Alan, and I have here with me my good friend Albert.
Oh, jeez, man.
Why are you yawning? You don't need to. You can't be yawning. You
Just
still
looking
got
at all these pictures that you've sort of imported in.
what
Oh,
pictures?
the map. Over. Hell.
Oh, oh yeah. I only have that one picture though. So yeah, there's Vessel. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
as much content because, as I said earlier in the stream, I'm more of a traditional medium type of guy. So whenever I plan stuff, I have to write it out. Like I can't, for some reason, my brain doesn't work well when I'm typing. But I have it all written out. But most of it just in a mind map in my brain. And I really hoping this stream can help me get it written down on paper. So I guess we'll start off with a quick overview of Vessel. So over here is my old document that I previously had done a while ago. So this is, as you can see, it's just a huge, just written thing. But essentially, the idea is that the world is so a majority of the world resides within the walls of the grand city called Vessel, hence its name. And then guided by the pseudo deity called the Divine Light, humanity and her
The YouTube channel's up already, right?
what?
Is the YouTube channel up? I can't find it.
It's up, but I think it's set to private right now.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
because Don's planning on releasing stuff. I think next
Mhm.
Saturday.
Yeah, I was just thinking I could put the YouTube channel into chat so people could subscribe now, but I'll
Yeah.
just.
Feel free to ask questions, Albert.
Oh yeah.
So, oh, the world itself is named Kalvalin, but no one really calls it that because there's really no need to, because you don't really go outside of the city. So the idea is that the entire surface of the world is just blasted to smithereens. The atmosphere is breathable, but it's kind of messed up, and that you shouldn't be breathing it. The majority of the city lives within this one mega structure, and the city itself, I think I have yeah. So right here's a quick. This is a legit picture of a map that I sketched out, but this entire thing goes about, was it? Yeah, it goes from 14 by 15 miles around, and then it goes about on average 4 miles deep. But the deepest part of it cuts all the way down to through the through the surface of the planet, where it gets a majority of its power from. And just the scale of this is just absolutely monstrous. I can't find it. I had it here a second ago. Yep, there it is. Yep, and the deepest part of it cuts down about 30 miles. And then it goes, and the dome itself that's actually on the surface is about 2 miles high. Like, just to put that in reference, like just reference that in your mind and think that the Grand Canyon, the deepest part is less than a mile. Like
Yeah.
that's how massive this thing is. So like initially just looking at the sketch, it's hard to think about how massive this thing would be and then on the inside too. And then, like a whole cities are embedded in this thing.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely massive. So that's kind of what the whole idea around it was. So going back to the overview. So like I had said, so after these initial beings called I'm just calling them the precursors for now. I don't have a name for them, but they essentially harness magic, and then they ended up screwing over the world. Actually, I probably have here, yeah. So the precursors. Before humanity and other races even walk the earth. Right. So before humanity and other races even walked the earth, the precursors harnessed the forces of nature, the arcane weave in the very fabric of reality to suit their needs. Um, though despite their overwhelming power, they were helpless in the face of a disaster of their own creating. Infighting led to a massive war between themselves that destroyed society, their planet, and everything in it. And yeah, you can kind of think of it like um, so. For my mind, it was always interesting about how people always say, "Oh, civilizations fall and stuff." And once you get to a certain point, sometimes it's hard to imagine a civilization falling. But in this one, how I imagine is that like they had such powerful magics that they literally just blew themselves into non-existence in some regions, and the planet that Vessel is on is one of the few places that just got lucky, and so um, their survivors were left with nothing and unable to save unable to save their bodily bodies. Or that's a weird way to phrase it. How would you phrase it, Albert? How to save their flesh bags? Let's put flesh bags in there.
Physical bodies, organic bodies.
Yeah, like organic bodies. Unable to save their organic bodies, a faction of the cursors I guess preserved. Preserved. Ugh. Well, I spelled consciousness way wrong. Oh God.
There you go.
Is that the proper conjunction? Consciousnesses.
Preserve their consciousness. I don't know how to. Yeah, I think that's correct. I hope that's correct.
All right. So after they fuck themselves over, essentially, So a faction of these precursors preserved their consciousness in a digital arc that would later become known as the Vessel of Light. And the Vessel of Light's important because
Okay.
the Vessel of Light actually becomes the sort of like pseudo gods of the modern humans and the modern elves, because it literally gives them technology that they found it and they're like, oh, what is this? And then it's like, here's how to build a car, here's how to do this, you know. So it literally guided their civilization into being. Uh,
So these precursors inhabited the same planet, right?
yes and no. This
Yes. Okay.
so
Mm-hmm.
they inhabited. They were like all over the galaxy, not galaxy, but
Okay.
the system. And I don't think that they probably most definitely tried colonizing other systems, but in general, they were housed in this system.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
but Vessel's one of the places that didn't get just blinked out of existence.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I kind of want to leave it open ended intentionally because that far
About what
back,
happened to them?
yeah, that far
Yeah.
back, it's kind of weird. No, because I don't really. It's not that I don't want to line out what happened to the precursors because they're gone. There's no coming
Right.
back from that. Like they're just gone. I
Yep.
I guess there could be coming back from it. I don't know. I that could become a really good an entire like story arc. But right as for now, um they the precursors kind of set up the scene for like the vessel itself, because the the faction that designed the arc didn't really have a huge part in preserving biological life. So a
Hmm.
different faction came about and they were like, oh shit, well, we're no longer, our flesh bags are going to be gone. And but they ended up designing like kernels for new life.
Mm-hmm.
So it does the whole like Halo arc thing.
Oh, there it is. Got it.
Oh, and these guys are the ones that initially created the first arc. I mean, for the first vessel biome thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that sets up the precursors, and then from there it goes to the founding. So I guess sentience. I think that's a good. I think that's a better word to describe all species. Oh, I feel like I'm missing an N
Let
in
me.
there.
It's an I at the beginning. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, so essentially, so the first sentient races found themselves within the realms of these biospheres. Gradually, these structures decayed, and even some of them even failed. And those who were fortunate enough were able to thrive. Certain races actually had higher adaptability to the atmosphere, so like orcs, centaurs, and other things. Some races were races that I think a lot of fantasies trope as monstrous. I think that I've kind of just through into the realm of they live
Mhm.
on the surface because they're more adapted to it.
Mhm.
So other races though they weren't as fortunate. They weren't as adaptable to the outside world, and those ones obviously aren't really around unless their biospheres have been preserved. But humans were fortunate because they were actually went onto the surface and they walked around for a while. But humans stumbled upon the research facility that actually held the divine vessel, and then once they found that, they were like, "Whoa!" And then their entire civilization was vaulted forward in terms of technological progression. Yeah. Yeah. So the first humans regarded this device as a god, and despite its guidance, the I really need to come up with a better name for it other than Vessel because it gets confusing because the setting's called Vessel
Mhm.
and the device is also just the divine vessel.
Yeah.
I guess I can call it an arc for now.
The voice, the arc.
Yeah. Um, uh, yeah. So initially the arc was like, yeah, all these things make sense, but if you teach a caveman like the properties of gasoline and how you can make it into a car, like that's essentially might as well be magic. So that sort of logic behind it uh, made the arc like reconsider, and because of the fact that it was like getting tired of like teaching each generation, they were like, fine, it's a religion, but we'll use the religion as a means to an end. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Eventually, means to unite, teach, and guide the mortal races. Yeah. So eventually, the Ark embraced the religion as a means to unite, teach, and guide the mortal races into a prosperous future. So that was the whole idea around the founding, and that's the reason why the church is so powerful because
Mhm.
the Ark actually embraced it initially. But as I kind of talk about on in this part, there are different parts. So there's the God's War, and there was the founding of Vessel, the First Age, the Enlightenment, and then there's the more recently. And I haven't really thought too much about it, but there's a lot. So initially in the God's War, actually probably a good idea to just. Oop, does Yeah. So the Gods' War was uh, after the founding of Vessel. The humans are were the immortal races were fragmented, and they there were like quote unquote demons and stuff like that, other races that were around as well. But
Hmm.
you know how crusades go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a vast number of within the same area, and uh, yeah, and the reason why it was called the God War is because historians like called out that the fact that other religions had other gods. Yeah.
Hmm.
And we gotta bear in mind they didn't consider their gods false gods. It's just they considered their god, you know, because you gotta bear in mind their concept of true gods is different because they literally had a shiny thing give them magic, or not magic, technology. So divine guidance, whatever you want to call it, but it's a literal manifestation of it that it actively. It's supposed to be a P. Yeah. And then after that, there was the First Age. And the First Age was so after they were unified. So unified and yeah, I think it's just unified. It was much different than the way we see it today. Than the map, right? It was literally just a single biome with a couple floors underneath it, but the
Yeah.
biome was flat, like the like it wasn't a bowl underneath it. It was
Hmm.
just flat, and yeah, during this time, the church had absolute power because it was still being guided by the the ark, and it appointed powers and stuff. But you got to bear in mind that this technology is old, and as the Ark gave humans and the mortals more power, more technological power, and it would confide with certain people that yeah, this isn't really magic, this is just technology. As soon as some of the higher up mortals realized this, they were like, well, we can't let the masses know that. So they just kept up with the religion, and eventually uh, some more advanced humans would come across technology, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll just use this technology however we want. But they started doing stuff, and eventually some of them came around and they were like, well, I don't like the concept of not being in power. And you want me to tell people how to use this technology? Let's not do that. Instead, let's repress the arcane vessel. So
Mm-hmm.
they use the technology that they gain to help to suppress and silence the divine vessel. And every once in a while, the divine vessel like sends out like a pulse to like try to attempt to communicate with other people to
Mm-hmm.
kick up the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And the after the first age came the Enlightenment, and the Enlightenment was this age where after humans grasped everything, the Enlightenment was a period of time where the vessel became what it is now. They dug out the floor, they accessed everything, and then they started mines and they started all these things, and they started this huge industrial revolution on a scale that we can't even comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the Enlightenment, there was another like that was when they really repressed it. They locked away the Ark, and they hid it from the masses, and they hid it, and they kept all the higher ups kept all of its technology for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And once the Ark realized that that was happening, the Ark attempted to change the status quo. So after the Enlightenment, what became the time of the kings. So the divine kings were quote unquote chosen members of society that were chosen by the vessel themselves to be the leaders that they needed. And meta speaking, that was the first surge. So these kings, these people that took over, were actually given legit magical powers to help take over the the theocracy, and that was when the first monarchy came about. But
Mm-hmm.
it soon came to light after a couple generations that the surge didn't go down hereditary. It wasn't hereditary, and it wasn't like that. So then they were like, well, that doesn't make sense, despite the fact that they've been doing it for a couple generations. After the time of the monarchs, they kind of had this huge schisming with schisming within the
Yeah,
society.
schism. Yeah.
Yeah, so different variations of the religion came up, different factions came up, and they started different sort of governing systems within Vessel because there was no one fully guiding them anymore. And during this time of conflict, these different entities started warring, and eventually the second surge happened. This time, however, they didn't use the monarchies to unite the people. They used different types of governing systems, and
Mm-hmm.
the church came in behind that and was like, yeah. So then they united everyone in this sort of like pseudo state type place, and that worked for a while. So the theocracy actually came back, and they had like a governing system that worked for a long time. And then again, it happened again. So the third surge happened after the theocracy decided that they didn't want to that they saw that all that technological repression was bad, so didn't they like stopped they halted the progression of technology intentionally
Mm-hmm.
to let the society mature, quote unquote, and let everyone kind of get used to the idea of technology rather than them seeing it as a divine thing. And then the third surge happened after that because a couple of the higher ups was actively suppressing and shackling the Ark.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the third surge happened. And then this time they used the corporations and stuff. The corporations actively took hold of all the infrastructure that was vital to Vessel, so like air scrubbers, generators, some waste treatment, all the other industries, all these other industries that became critical to just supporting everyone. These corporations kind of got their grubby hands on, and they had enough firepower to back them up that the church wasn't able to take anything back. So then they came to this agreement that the church would have absolute say over all of Vessel, but it wouldn't intervene with the inner workings of it. So like when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
matters of like outside forces, the church does whatever it needs to. And the inside forces, each individual quote unquote state has their own rights and governing systems. So then that kind of led to the differentiation of different parts of Vessel. So that's how we have the different uh, regions and cities within
Mm-hmm.
Vessel. Yeah, and then the last 100 years have been that just corporations growing up and maturing, and these different things sort of happening. And around the time that your campaign comes around, that is now the fourth surge. And for intentions of not, and I don't mean to spoil anything, but that's the fourth surge, and there's a reason behind it. I just don't want to reveal it just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's really in depth. So you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge progression of this, and I have it written down, but I don't have it written down well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I've noticed is that you I think you like to do is you like to kind of start from like uh ancient history and kind of work forward.
Oh yeah.
Whereas, yeah, a lot of the times what I do is I like start at the present and kind of work backwards and kind of infer what must have happened to lead to where things are now. And it's interesting
Well,
interesting that we both have different ways of doing this.
well, I think that I started off with the way you did it, right? And so I started
Hmm.
off with just the premise, and I started off with that. But the problem is that since I've been working on this for a bit longer than you have, I
Hmm.
kind of went back and I plotted these things out because it's
Yeah.
interesting to me how this just society works and how we can explore the human condition with these sort of world building stuff. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because like initially it was just yeah, sure, we have a giant biosphere and we all live in it. That's cool. But I never considered to myself, how that sort of society would work. You
Hmm.
know, so that's the reason why when I went backwards, I really got into depth with the background stuff, and the more I worked on it, the more I was like, okay, yeah, so there's this divine thing that's literally just an AI that tells them things. And then I thought
Hmm.
about it. I'm like, wait, but if you gave that to cavemen, how would they react to that? And then the just progression of thoughts led me to this.
Hmm.
Yeah. So do you have any other questions?
Hmm.
I don't even know how
Let
long
me.
I was talking for. It felt like forever.
Uh, it's been about 42 minutes.
Yeah.
So the first stage.
Yeah. So the first age, during
Yeah.
this time, with absolute authority.
Yeah, I don't have too many questions. I've been following you pretty well so far.
Yeah.
Uh, hmm. So does that kind of imply that there might be others out there as
Yes.
well? Oh, okay. Huh.
The more astute watcher will have noticed that in my history thing that I had right here,
Hmm.
there's actually 7 of them.
Right. Yeah.
Or 9. There's 9 fragments.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, so they're all spread across the world, and for the most part, there's no in-depth communication between them.
Mm-hmm.
Vessel most definitely doesn't really communicate with the outside. However,
Mm-hmm.
one important thing is that humans were the first race to encounter Vessel, but
Mm-hmm.
immediately after that was the elves, followed by the gnomes, and
Mm-hmm.
then after that was the dwarves and a couple other races. But one of the more recent ones would be the orcs, the kobolds, and a couple other monstrous races.
Oh, okay,
Because and
cool.
those ones happened within the last like 300 years, so it's within
Mm-hmm.
like living memory.
Mm.
I was thinking about setting it up longer because I initially had it at 700, but I think that it would make more sense to extend it a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Oh,
700 years is a long time, though.
another
Like the.
thing. Another thing that I wanted to bring up
Mm-hmm.
was how there was a couple of like information purges.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone doesn't really know all this in-depth stuff
Yeah.
because you have a society that's highly technologically advanced, but the church is actively repressing the release of information.
Mm-hmm.
So that obviously logically leads to to information purges. So
Yeah, a lot of this history is lost.
yeah. Well,
Well.
it's not lost, it's fragmented. It's fragmented and hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure your character, especially in this most recent campaign, your character would know a decent amount of this.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, no one knows about the fact that the precursors were a thing. No one knows that.
Yeah.
But the progression of the gods are not uh linear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because another thing that I like looking at is how society changes, right? So in a world that there's an actual manifestation and there's actual tangible results from a divine entity, how that would change once the religion starts suppressing that fact, how the religion would change because it repeats the history in the history it repeats itself. The people that are higher up realize they introduce technology. They say there's this cool new thing, here's a gun, this is how a gun
Mm-hmm.
works, and then they realize a surge in violence and stuff, and they're like, well, you can't have that anymore, let's not give them any more guns. And then
Right.
as soon as they do that, they realize, and then people start losing faith in what was given to them. So they're like, oh yeah, yeah, we have guns, but what have we seen recently? And then they start fighting among themselves. And then once they unify again once the old power was removed, and then they're given new technology.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
once they're unified by that, that religion comes back. It's this constant yin and yang of technology progression, of society, and like just how that would work. And it's just interesting to be able to look at it that way.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the
Yeah.
things that's an integral pillar of Vessel and its history.
Uh-huh.
That, and I think I brought this up with you. That
Yeah,
every
you brought it
time,
up with me before. Yeah, it
yeah,
might be a good thing to bring up now, actually.
yeah. So the way I build worlds oftentimes is like I get a cool premise. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything. I could have like the land of rainbows and sprinkles. But after I get a cool premise and I do a couple of small things here and there, I like to ask myself, what are the major pillars that I want to look
Mm-hmm.
at in this world? And when I was building Vessel, one of the things I decided to look at was religion. And I know it's a real touchy subject, and a lot of people go through these phases, I think, in their lives of like, you know, belief and doubt and like that. But when I started this idea, I was really hesitant to even incorporate it. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized that, you know, unity and religion and humanity and just existing are all intertwined. And I thought that was a really good, cool approach to take when building this world. And so there's that pillar of religion, and then for Vessel, it's also technology. I think that was pretty prevalent in what I was talking about too, about
Mhm.
how technology progresses, and also social movements, how society changes, and what people do to instigate those changes. In the first episode of Vessel, I had mentioned Oliver had mentioned the fact that their social movement was being overtaken by terrorists and extremists and stuff like that,
Mhm.
if you remember. And
Yep.
like it's just constant back and forth of just what like looking at the world in these cool ways.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and whenever I make a world, I try to do that. And like for Iris and Alvakra, same thing. So for Iris, it's feudalistic society in like terms of war, cultural shock. So like being unable to recognize other people for their unique cultures, and
Mhm.
then also what was another one? I can't remember. There was a third one for Alvakra that I mentioned, but I can't think of it now. Yeah, and then for Iris, it's terraforming, as well as uh, the future of humanity. But Iris is most definitely in its infancy stages, so I can't really say exactly what direction I'll go with that.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
think next week. I think we should. I think it would be cool if we started with new things.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
can maybe get to Iris next week. I think that'd be cool.
hmm I don't know. I feel after talking about Vessel again, I really want to type out more, but we're already coming up to like the 3 hour mark. Yeah.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. Actually, we didn't. We started at noon, so we actually got 10 minutes left on this.
Mhm.
Is there anyone? No, there's no one in the chat. But
No, not really.
yeah, it's fine. Uh,
We had a
world
few
building can
people
help
watching.
us understand.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. And all those creators out there understand what I'm talking about. Right, Albert?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Oh, and I guess I'll give you a bit of sneak preview of what I was doing here. So we have the history, right?
Uh-huh.
We also have factions. So we
Yeah.
have the Grimson Conclave, which is there's another whole in-depth thing, but it's a more horizontal like activist group
Mhm.
initially, but it later turned into like a militaristic movement. The Divine Acculants, which I won't say because no, I'll talk about it. They're like uh they think that because magic's resurging in the world, they think that those people are gods and they
Mhm.
actively seek them out.
Mhm.
There's a Blythe Corporation conglomerate. It's one of the mega corporations that owns about 4 cities within Vessel. So they're a massive thing. And if you mention, I name dropped them in the first episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. I remember that.
There's Placebo, the a sort of like information behind the scenes network that your character is a member of,
Yep.
an integral member of that I don't know much about aside from that you have a cool structure and you guys all seek to be a sort of information network for the recurring uprising or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
And then there's the Red Hellions, which is a militaristic faction that was ramshackled together from an old orc faction as well as a like a entertainment enterprise. It's interesting. I'll go more in depth on that later. Then there's the Sile Security Personnel, which is the company that we own for our campaign. What?
Yep. Mhm.
Yep. And Sile's actually Cassandra's last name.
Yeah, it is. I remember that.
Yeah. Then there's the Church of Light, but this one obviously I need to put down a couple more because there's sub factions within them that
Yeah,
I just haven't really
definitely.
thought about. Because despite all my talkings about how religion is interesting, I've intentionally not like created factions for
Mhm.
for the church. All I have is like the Holy Inquisitions and the Sanctuary Tactical Enforcers, but I haven't really brought them in at all. Then there's the Orc Tribunal. There's 3 Orc tribes that I'm really interested in getting into, and then I have some other ones Then a closed phase. That is your faction that you made back in our first campaign.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how would you describe it? It's similar to Placebo, but more in a realm of like
Man, how would I
spy
describe
work.
it? It's been so long.
It,
Yeah.
yeah, they're more like they're more
Espionage.
espionage than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Espionage, activism.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So those are all the factions that I eventually want to get to. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's important people, the Destroyer, which is a huge spoiler. I'm sorry, but
It's
I
okay.
won't mention it. But Albert knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Cassandra Sill?
Still.
Yeah, Cassandra Sill. That it's not a spoiler. She's like one of the first NPCs we mentioned, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, she's the owner of the information firm not the information firm, the security firm
The security firm, yeah.
that Denton and Vint are a part of.
Yep.
And she's a known associate of the Grimson Conclave, and she's interesting. And then I guess the next one we talk about is Oliver Wendell. He's also in the first episode.
Yeah.
So
Clint is in the first episode.
Clint's not in the first episode. He's in the second.
Or Clint?
Yeah, Clint's in
Oh,
the
yep,
second.
yep, you're right. Never mind.
Patrician's mentioned.
I got him confused with Oliver.
Yeah, and then there's Ripjaw, Drazor, Karutz. I think Zern, Clint. She hasn't been mentioned yet. He hasn't been
Mhm.
mentioned yet. He hasn't been mentioned yet. Yeah, there we go. So that's the order of appearance, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So then there's Oliver, and then there's Patricia. She's mentioned once, but later on she becomes an actual character.
Yeah.
And then there's Ripjaw, who is someone very important that I don't think he. It's a bit spoilery to talk about him. And there's Drazor.
Yeah.
Drazor, I actually don't have much for Drazor, mainly because you haven't pursued that lead.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that for the next session.
Yeah. And then there's Karutz.
Yeah.
Then there's Zern Sinless, Clint, Faith, and I know you have more in part of your thing.
Yeah, there's a few more you haven't met yet
Yeah.
that haven't really been introduced.
Yeah, and those are the people. But I want to do like an in-depth about them eventually. Then expanded lore like orc origins, the elf origins, precursors, and I'm adding a few things. And eventually I want to add in items, artifacts, and just like rulesy stuff for Genesis. Like
Yeah,
coming up
because
with yeah, because
making a document for other people to use eventually.
yeah, and it might be nice to help to work on that here and during the stream. So
Yeah, so like I guess we didn't really talk about systems a whole lot in the beginning of the stream, but like
yeah, well, the mother take all is obviously D&D. Like it has the
Yeah.
largest like market share, if you will, of the role playing universe. But there are other good ones out there.
And like many of these are definitely like D&D worlds. Like Vathan, I think is.
Yeah, Alvakra is.
Yeah, I think they're both pretty wholly D&D.
Yeah.
Vessel we're running in Genesis.
Which is it's interesting because Genesis, owned by Fantasy Flight Games, it's more of like a toolbox of a role playing system because it's a lot more work for the DM to incorporate it, but you can incorporate almost anything.
So I kind of don't want to like make you make any commitments now, but like for Iris, what system are you thinking of using?
I don't know. I was thinking honestly running Iris in Modern just because I love Modern and not enough people use Modern. The only problem is that Modern's a 3.5 variant, so it's unnecessarily complicated for people who don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? So especially for newer players, and the only people that I think I could run this with is Alex and Christy. So
yeah.
And you, obviously. I don't think Dusk would be interested in recording it though, because I know Dusk enjoyed the system. Dawn might like it, because if I remember correctly, Dawn originally started role playing back in 3.5. Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. So
yeah,
she might be interested, but Iris, I don't really have a whole lot aside from that. It's set in the future, and it's set in real Earth future, so it's not like sci-fi or it's not that homebrew. Aside from that, it's set on a planet called Homewell. No, it's set on a planet called Iris, and the it's set in a city called Homewell,
Hmm.
and it's like a deconstruct. The city itself is a legit just deconstructed colony ship,
That's cool.
and like every like decade or two, there's
Mhm.
another colony ship that comes, and like
Interesting.
yeah, and Iris has been there for the longest, but they still only have about 3,000 population on this planet.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, and that's the whole concept of Iris. It's not a lot of people in this big world.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that neither of us have really done too much is like space opera.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with Iris
Yeah.
because it's set in real world future with like actual things, and it's not like high sci-fi or high fantasy.
Mhm.
It's like a lot more realistic.
Yeah. Uh. hmm
Yeah.
So I mentioned this earlier, but one of the ideas that I had is like this would be D&D, but like just D&D like as a blatant space opera, and like kind of like because you have like Spelljammer, but Spelljammer is a lot more of like going to other planes and stuff. And
hmm
so I kind of want to do like a D&D style setting just in space. It could still be Faerun even. That might be fun.
Just I think honestly I think that's kind of what the current direction is in the campaign, but not high sci-fi because like the Gith they have these ships that are just actual ships like
Yeah.
spaceships. So like I think with the recent direction they're taking, I think that's highly feasible to just have like it's a wand of fireball, but it's kind of shaped and you cast it by pulling the trigger. Like that's a laser pistol, you know?
hmm
So like I think that that sort of direction's already being taken, and I definitely think that if we build a custom plane that fits into that, it would be pretty fun to play.
Yeah. I have a few ideas of what I want to do with this stream.
Yeah. Well, that was the
But
first episode, and I think
yeah, we should call it around
yeah,
there.
we slated it to go for 3 hours. So obviously next time we'll have a bit more. We'll have a quicker startup. But
Yeah.
this is just the first episode, and I'm really looking forward to this series.
Same.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching, and check us out at Twitter. My handle is Alan D Joe, and you can also follow Albert at variable vacancy.
Yep.
And then if you want the network that we're trying to, the creative collective that we've started. I
Yeah.
like to call it that because I can't think of a good word because we're not a company, we're not anything else. We're just a collective of nerds that want to create shit. But you can follow our little group at blanket_term at Twitter, and we'll be having a YouTube channel going up in the nearest future. So if you're interested, we'll have information on that on our Twitch channel. And we have a world building stream on today, so Saturday. We have Don does a chill stream on Friday around noon. I stream on Wednesdays to just whatever game, and I stream on my personal channel every now and then too. So if you guys are interested, please come check us out there. Anything else you want to add, Albert?
No, not really.
Not really. All right then.
Yeah.
Guess that calls it for today, and hope you have a great day.